for 2010-11.
But what followed? A near decade of dominance from city rivals Celtic. Four years rising through the lower leagues of Scottish football led Rangers back to the country's top division in 2016. This is the story of the Scottish Premiership title race of 2020-21.
Celtic have been confirmed as Scottish Premiership champions for the 9th season in a row.
With last season cut short due to the devastating effects of the coronavirus pandemic, Celtic Football Club claim a 9th successive Premiership title.
The decision was taken at a board meeting this morning after the 12 clubs agreed at the end of last week that completing the campaign wasn't possible.
This is celebrating 9 titles in a row, lockdown style.
It's obviously not the way that, we could have seen things pan out. We'd have loved to have done it in front of the supporters and played out the games, but in terms of looking back over the season, we were absolutely outstanding.
Could they go on to make history and win 10 league titles in a row?
Everyone was talking about 10 in a row.
The pressure was on. It was a huge season for both sides.
Rangers and Celtic fans love to wind each other up, and if Celtic had got 10, then it would be, it would be something that could hold against Rangers for a while. And I can't see 9 or 10 ever happening again, so it's probably like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
I think also from Steven Gerrard's point of view, I think this season he had to win a trophy. Last season did not end well.
There was that question mark about were they strong enough mentally to be able to withstand a full season, challenge for the title. And the only way they were going to get around that was to go out and to prove it.
It all kicks off for season 2020-21. Aberdeen against Rangers at Pittodrie Live.
I think a lot of people would have looked at the start of the season and felt as though Celtic were still strong favourites. Obviously Rangers had a very difficult opening fixture away at Pittodrie.
If you look this season, the very first game, Aberdeen away, up at Pittodrie, doesn't get any tougher.
Anytime you're going to go to Pittodrie, it's difficult. It's always hard games up there, always. And you knew it was going to be a tough game.
Seldom has the opening day of the season been quite so keenly anticipated. Almost 5 months since the last competitive game, and at last the Scottish Premiership is back, but it's back in unique and somewhat bizarre circumstances. The empty Pittodrie stands testament to that.
Those are the games that you feel bad for the Aberdeen fans, because it's a fixture that they love, and everyone used to say to us, you always raise your game for the Old Firm, but it's like, well, the fans raise their game as well, and the noise is electric, so it would have been difficult for them to not be at the game.
Ryan Kent and Rangers will kick off the Scottish Premiership season after a lengthy absence of competitive football in this country. We're back underway as Rangers look to try to stop Celtic's drive towards 10 in a row.
For me, the signs were there early that, Rangers were going to be a force this season in terms of that style of play.
Just pokes it through for Ryan Kent. He's onside, it's Ryan Kent with a great chance and he slots it in. And there is the opening goal of the Scottish Premiership season, and it goes the way of Rangers, created by Morelos and finished by Ryan Kent.
That was the first time we'd almost seen a different side to Alfredo Morelos, the dropping deep to link, and he does that really well, and he's the one that slips Kent through.
It was a well-took goal as well from Ryan Kent. When you were running through, it was a fantastic finish. So it was a good start to the season.
It's an opening day win for Steven Gerrard's men thanks to Ryan Kent's cool goal.
It was a great opening result for Rangers, but at that point in time it was still too early to realise the significance of what it would mean moving forward for the season for Rangers.
This historic season in Scottish football is underway.
Neil Lennon knows what's at stake over the next 9 or 10 months or so with what is riding on the season. Should Celtic come out on top and create yet more history? Greg Taylor, Edwards there! And so it begins. Christie to McGregor. Celtic weaving their way through, and it is two. Here's Forrest. Edwards waiting and scoring again. It's a good run by Christie. Edouard! And there's the hat-trick. Julian. It's a lovely ball. This is Klimala. Number 5. And the quest for 10 in a row begins with 3 points for Neil Lennon.
That game against Hamilton was probably one of their best performances. They dismantled Hamilton, and Odsonne Edouard scoring, looking good, the shape and the structure of the team. It certainly looked as if they had just taken off from where they'd left it, the last season.
So at that point in time, I think the majority of people, certainly in the media, would have thought Celtic were on course again to win the league.
Now it's Morelos, and it's gone in off Conor McCarthy. It's an own goal. Tafferty in, there's Morelos, there's the goal he so desperately wanted. And that ends a run of 10 games without a goal. Here goes Barisic. Back goes McPherson. It's Morelos. And it's Alfredo at the double.
Another victory for Rangers means Celtic need to win at Kilmarnock to keep up the pace.
Ryan Christie, the man over the set piece. Goal, he finds it. Danny Rogers beaten from distance by Ryan Christie. And Celtic have the early breakthrough. Vasilis Barkas now with his first major test as a Celtic goalkeeper up against Chris Burke. It's Burke, it's a great penalty. Kilmarnock have taken a point from Neil Lennon's Celtic.
Points dropped, and off the pitch, Celtic hit the headlines.
The First Minister has warned Scottish football to get its house in order after yet another breach of coronavirus protocols. It comes after the Celtic defender Bole Bolingoli flew to Spain without his club's knowledge, failed to quarantine on his return and then played during his side's match at the weekend.
Celtic had a few problems regarding COVID breaches, etc. They missed games. Rangers managed to create a small gap, but I don't think at any point in time a Celtic player would have looked at that, not thinking they would catch that gap up.
Rangers pick up another 3 points against St Johnstone, moving them top of the Premiership table.
Is there a psychological advantage of, getting points on the board and being ahead? I think so early in the season, that's not quite as important. Because if you're a Celtic player, as I said, you're always thinking, we'll win those games in hand, we'll catch up with Rangers.
Early on in the season, the Bolingoli situation, not being able to play a few games, and Rangers getting themselves in front, I think it's certainly psychologically, it was perfect situation for Rangers to do that.
Steven Gerrard's side are held to a goalless draw in Livingston, but then go on a remarkable run of matches without conceding a single goal.
They have possession with a purpose, and it's been very much built on, you know, the foundations at every team is a defensive unit. Everyone will talk about, you know, some of the goals that's been scored, you know, absolute worldies, you know, great team goals. But the foundations, you know, any team's success is the defensive unit.
Another impressive victory for Rangers, and they set a new record as well. 7 clean sheets at the start of the season defensively. That's hugely impressive.
A lot of people will look at it and say it's a back four, but for me, it's very obvious that it comes from all over the pitch, you know, from the front to the back.
Actually, when you look at the way that Rangers are set up, it's very difficult for teams to score against them because Rangers control the ball so well. They play in your half, and when Rangers lose the ball this season, they win it back very, very quickly.
They seem to control the game even when they didn't have the ball. And I think they then we started to see the threat they carried going forward. So teams were always very, very wary of overcommitting bodies forward because they knew that Rangers could hurt you in the counter-attack.
You started to see the tactical work that has been put in over the few years starting to bear fruit. That doesn't happen just by the defenders and the goalkeeper playing well. That's a whole team, a whole unit.
Next up for Rangers, a trip to the capital to face second place side Hibernian.
Going to Easter Road's always a big game. There's no doubt about it. And Jack Ross's Hibs side have done well. They've made a lot of progress. So going to Easter Road for that game, there's no doubt that was a big test. It was a big challenge.
Boyle for Hibs, big opportunity! Rangers concede!
Rangers concede for the first time this season in the Scottish Premiership. It's Hibernian 1, Rangers 0.
Davis to Kent, too high for Hadji, it's Morelos! That is what he's all about! Tavernier, Arfield, Hadji, Arfield, brilliant! Absolutely brilliant from Rangers! Chip from Boyle's brilliant, and Hibs are level! Tristan Dodge! It is a draw! The big winners are Celtic today. Broad smile from Jack Ross because his team came from behind to salvage a draw.
I think it's fair to say that today, Rangers have probably conceded more key chances than they have, the other previous 7 league games combined. So I think although Rangers had chances to go and win the game, I think over the balance of play, a point was a fair result.
It was the first time they conceded goals, but it was also a game that they could easily have lost.
Conceding 2 after having such a wonderful record, not conceding, but they don't lose the game.
That was a marker to say, all right, they've only come away with a point, but they weren't going to be beaten away from home. They weren't going to go away from home and surrender points like they had done previously.
Celtic returned to action and go on a winning run of their own. The arrival of Irish centre-back Shane Duffy from English Premier League side Brighton looks to be a positive move in their bid for 10 in a row.
Yes! Yes!
Celtic had found a wee bit of form. They'd signed Shane Duffy, which was seen at the time as being a huge signing for the club, an experienced English Premier League defender.
My gut was that they're kidding themselves on a little bit because it didn't fit. In that run of form that they went on, I think it was like 8 in a row they'd won going into that game, but the performances weren't great. They were almost like trying to convince themselves that they were doing really well, whereas you looked at Rangers and they were in a rhythm. Their team settled in terms of what they were trying to do as a shape and a structure. Celtic, it felt like they were still just trying to find that formula, which is bizarre in a sense because of all the success that Celtic have had. You would have thought that they would have been in that groove.
Just 1 point separates Celtic and Rangers ahead of the first Old Firm derby of the season.
It is Derby Day in Glasgow. Rangers 1 point clear of Celtic, having played a game more.
Back when I was playing at Rangers, it was such a tight race between Rangers and Celtic every year. When you go into an Old Firm game, it was always, you just don't lose it.
This is Scottish football's new normal writ large. The usual cacophony of noise, the sea of green and white with a smattering of red, white and blue are nowhere to be seen. Instead, it's an Old Firm derby like none that has come before. Alfredo Morelos is a man desperate for a goal against Rangers' fiercest rivals. 4-3, Neil Lennon leads Steven Gerrard in the head-to-head since the Liverpudlians' arrival in Glasgow.
I didn't expect it to pan out the way it did. I didn't think it would be as comfortable for Rangers.
It was Rangers flexing their muscles and saying, we're not going to be walked over the way we have done in the past few seasons. You're not going to get it all your own way. And maybe that is a wee seed of doubt that crept in to the Celtic players. They've actually gone, do you know what? This is going to be tough.
Tavernier to deliver the free kick. Goldson and Helander among the players looking to get on the end of this one. Tavernier's delivery, Goldson's in there, he has the opening goal. Rangers in front, Celtic claim for offside. It won't be given. And Connor Goldson stoops to divert the ball past Vasilis Barkas, and Rangers in front.
This is not going to be as easy as it's been in previous seasons, and psychologically at that point in time, maybe there was a shift.
I think even if Celtic had their strongest team out, I'm not sure they would have been able to, compete, because I think Rangers had that bit between their teeth.
Arfield with a bit of space. Morelos linking with Arfield again, flashed across goal. Big chance for Goldson, he's got a double. Connor Goldson, 2 for him, 2 for Rangers, and they are well in control of this Old Firm derby.
I think that was probably the first, when the alarm bells probably started ringing for a lot of Celtic fans, because this is your biggest rivals and you're playing at home, and they've came to your place and they've absolutely dominated the game.
There it is, Steven Gerrard salutes the rest of his management team. Neil Lennon disappointed that his understrength Celtic team could not see off their closest rivals. They've opened up a 4-point gap on the champions, but nonetheless an important psychological victory perhaps for Rangers.
For Rangers, I think it shows that they seem to have the beating of Celtic. It's not a one-off, it's happened before, and it will give them the belief. I think it really shows that there's a real title challenge now.
I think the thing is, when you come off of a big result like the Old Firm win at Parkhead, sometimes it's easy as a player, a group of players, to drop your guard and again think that this is going to be easy. That again, where the mentality shift for me has come in massively. Steven Gerrard has not allowed that, and I could imagine him reiterating to the players on a daily, weekly basis, every game before they go out, that each game is as important as the last. And the game at home against Livingston, again, another clean sheet, and probably the goal of the season.
Forward by Tavernier, Defoe could be in here, first time, what a finish from Jermaine Defoe. The ball from Tavernier is utter perfection, and it was matched by the finish.
Yeah, I still think it's the goal of the season. I think there's probably one player in the league in Scotland that scores that goal, and it's Jermaine Defoe. He's letting the ball, he's on the run, letting the ball come over his right hand shoulder. The ball's curling towards him, and he catches it flush in a half volley with his weak foot. That is, if you ask any striker, and if they're going to be truthful, they'll tell you that is a much harder technique.
It's all very well, looking at teams and, winning games, but it's the way that you win games. Rangers go and play Hamilton, they score 8 goals.
The Hamilton game, that was starting to become the fear. it didn't really matter what Hamilton done because Rangers were so dominant, and that was all. That's then started to become the fear for other teams. Look, if we go here and we try and go toe to toe with Rangers, we're going to get done for 8.
Have you seen a more one-sided game?
No, I really haven't. You know, Rangers were so dominant.
Well, here's the heat map. Looks absolutely roasting in that 18-yard box, doesn't it?
It's on fire basically in the 6-yard box, and Rangers, put them to the sword. They really did. One-sided as one-sided a game as you will see.
They went on this run where everything's starting to click. They were ruthless in front of goal, and they were solid in back. That's just one of the things that you just sometimes go into in football.
In November, Rangers score 13 goals in 3 matches, conceding none. And following their Old Firm defeat, Celtic look to get back to winning ways.
Celtic have been behind twice, but no longer. They're in front. 3-3 in stoppage time at Pittodrie. A crucial match in the battle for the title. 4 drop points for Celtic in what has been the toughest of weeks.
You could start to see the pressure getting heaped on Celtic.
Nisbet scores! And the champions are wondering what day of the week it is.
Rangers just kept on winning. Celtic dropping more points.
Celtic, teams of course still respectful of them, but they didn't have that same fear factor this season.
A frustrating run of results leads to Celtic exiting the League Cup, a competition they have won for the past 4 years. Their domestic dominance is over. And falling behind in the Premiership, will Celtic be able to turn their season around? Rangers start December in style. A 4-0 victory over Ross County and one of many man-of-the-match performances from club captain James Tavernier.
Ryan Kent running it, Conor Randall back in field for Morelos, breaks to Kent in the 6-yard box it goes, and would you believe it, it's that man yet again, James Tavernier, with a 16th goal of the season. A quite phenomenal tally for a fullback. Goes in, it's a lovely ball for Tavernier, big chance for a third for Rangers, and as Tavernier tried to pick out Morelos in the middle, Ross County defender swept into his own net.
There's so many times this season that James Tavernier has ended up, in the 6-yard box. There's so many times that he's been instrumental in the attacks, and that's from the full-back position.
Tav, former player for myself as well. I played with him in Newcastle, and I never, have to be honest, I never expected him to. He was a young boy at that point coming through, and I never expected him to hit the heights as he's hit to now. Not being any disrespect in any way, but he was a good young player. But he's just, for me, he's grown at Rangers, massively grown. Even when he came to the club, he was good, but he's just been getting better and better and better. Yes, he scores a lot of goals on penalties, but that also proved that he's an unbelievable striker of the ball.
One of the best goals that I've seen this season was James Tavernier's. I think it was against Dundee United. And you're thinking when he's setting the ball up, he's good from dead balls. He's a dead ball specialist, free kicks, but you're thinking it's too far out. He just gets so much whip in it, so much curl.
What he gives going forward and what Barisic gives going forward on the other side makes it so difficult for opposition teams to play against.
Neatly out wide onto Barisic. Barisic into the middle!
The quality of ball that is getting put into that Rangers box on a weekly basis from the fullbacks, it really is. It's a joy to watch.
The sound of Barisic when he clips one, it's like a beautiful golf shot. The delivery from the two of them is really, really outstanding.
How many times have we seen Barisic cross for Tavernier at the back post and vice versa? And I'm a fullback myself, and I look at the two of these guys and I think they're getting into positions and they're doing things that I would never even dream of, but they're allowed that freedom because of the structure they've got behind them. I mean, we spoke about Defoe's goal. It comes from an incredible pass from Tavernier.
Rangers taste defeat for the first time this season against St Mirren in the League Cup. Steven Gerrard's search for his first piece